This is what it is, okay? I said empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Welcome to the 22nd episode of the Deployment Dojo. Today, this is a live show and where we talk and discuss software installation topics using the WiX Toolset. Just to prove it was live, I got a phone call right there. Unfortunately, I'm your host, Rob Mensching, and I'm alone today. No, I'm Rob Mensching, and I'm alone today. Unfortunately, David is unable to join us, so we're going to kind of work our way through this so that all you guys are together. He might be able to jump in later, but I'm not counting on it. So we're going to kind of go through this together on our own and see how things end up when we get to the end. I don't have anybody else to talk to, so let's go ahead and jump straight into it. All right, today we're picking up again from GitHub, where we left all of our code in the past. So if you can go to github.com/deploymentdojo, and you can go then see all of our repositories. We're doing all our work in the belt test, and I'm going to, like we have been for the last few weeks, I'm gonna copy this URL here, and I'm gonna tell Visual Studio to go ahead and clone it for me. And I'm gonna put it in the dojo, and we are in episode 22, so we'll go ahead and put it in episode 22. Hit clone. All right, so the story that we've been talking here is the dev team has been off and been busy. We're finally back into doing work setup work. We did a lot of infrastructure work. We got GitHub all hooked up to us. We're now nice and comfortable in here, and it's time for us to add another application. So what I want to do is I'm going to open up the folder where this is at, and I'm going to bring in a new application. We've been working with this console application since the beginning, the very first project, one of the very first projects, and it's grown for us. It's been successful in that way. So I'm going to bring into the belt test, and I'm going to grab this other folder where I have a new application ready to go. All right, it's a Windows form app. We've been doing lots and lots of console app, and last episode we hooked up an environment variable, so we didn't have to go and put a read key at the end of the console app would pop up and wait. You could actually run it from the console and it would do the right thing. Well, now the dev team has gone off and done a whole lot more work, and they've added this WinForms app. So I'm going to go into the solution and add their existing project WinForms app. I don't think you guys want to see me do that here because I'm not a great WinForms app writer or any of that kind of stuff. But here it is, and we'll go ahead and make this the startup project so we can see it on my machine and make sure that things are generally working. Just hit F5, get a build out, and over here on my main window, it pops up, Welcome to Deployment Dojo, showing the addition and the customer. The same way that our console application did it, it would show the addition and console by reading the registry. So if we take a quick peek at the program form, we can see, I want to see the code behind. View code. You can see here, I have in these two text boxes, it's going to read our registry keys from the belt test, just like we have in the past, and we're going to populate the values inside the text box. So that means that this application is very similar to our console application. If I go open that program, close some extras here, we can see that program go ahead and read those same reg keys and then display them out to the console as a console application would. So essentially we have the same sort of application, except now it's a WinForms app. So let's get this wired into setup. Now that we know what we're doing. The dev teams have been busy. Let's get this going. First things first, I'm on the main. I need to create a new branch. And I think we've been calling these episode 22. I hope that's what we've been calling them. Yep. Continue to check out. It's going to tell me, hey, you have files here. You want to get those checked in? I'm like, yes, please. We'll take a look at our Git check-in. And we have the new WinForms app. It's several files and an update to our solution file. So let's go ahead and add all of those as changes. And we're going to say add WinForms app 1. Commit. There we go. We have our change. That new work from the dev team, we've got that in. Normally, we'd expect the dev team to have added that already, but I wanted to show you the application and add it here, so there's no surprises. Okay, Form 1 program solution. Time to make the setup changes. So the first thing we need to do is, now that we have our WinForms and our console app, if we look at our belt test package here, the MSI that we're building, we'll see our dependencies. We have a project dependency on console app 1. We need to do the same thing for WinForms app. So I want to add a project reference, and I'm going to pick the WinForms app. So now that'll make sure that, one, the WinForms app gets built before this project, and I don't know what the little yellow icon means. And that we are able to reference that code inside our work. So let's go ahead and do... No, I'm going to keep going. All right. If we look at console app, this is how we were bringing in the console app. We had a component group called console app components. We're going to the install folder, and we had our file. Let's do the same exact thing for WinForms app. And I'm just going to go ahead and say add... Oh, I keep clicking on the dependencies. Add new item. I'm going to say, give me a new WXS file, source file. And we're going to call this WinForms app components. Hey, Bert, Martin, Barb, welcome. It's great to have all of you guys here. Wasn't looking at chat. I'm running around solo here. I don't have David kind of poking me in the back saying, hey, do you know what people are talking about us? It's great to have you guys here. Okay, we now have our empty fragment. We're going to create a component group. Here, component group, ID equals WinForms app components. That sounds good. And we're going to put it in the install folder because that's where we're putting all our stuff. We'll put it right in there next to the console app. Now we give it a component and we give it our file. Source equals the name of our exe, which is going to be WinForms app1.exe. If I got everything right, hopefully this just builds. That little yellow icon there has me a little bit nervous, but we're going to see. Everything starts. Error, get target path does not exist in the project. Huh. The WinForms app doesn't have a get target path in it. That's crazy. So the WiX Toolset, when it depends on another project, it will say, hey, go tell me the things that when I'm building on you, make sure I know where you're putting all of your files so it can create the references. And apparently this project is missing that. And I don't know why it is. It's just a WinForms app. All right, you know what we're going to do then? Real quick, we're going to create and add a new one. I better actually, let's see. Before we do that, let's get rid of the WinForms app. And we're going to go and create another one. Let's see. I moved the code. All right, we'll get it out of our way from the file system. And I'm going to go ahead and add it right here in front of us. And then I'll copy the code in, hopefully. New project, WinForms, application, C#. Let's do the .NET framework this time, and we'll see what happens. Belt test, that seems like a good place. Framework 4.7.2 is a fantastic one for us to start with. All right, cool. We have a Forms app here. If I go into the code behind, press F7, there's our initialization code. Okay, I'm gonna open up and see if I can't copy our backup code and go Form 1. All right. So that's good. Now the question is, if I open up the initialized component, this is my new one, very empty, as you can see. Let's see if we can open up from the old one, the designer code, and if I can just copy that whole initialize, yes, WinForms, generate code. You know what? We're just gonna try to grab this whole thing. We're gonna try to blit over the generated code by Visual Studio and see if I can just copy the old one to the new one. And I don't know if that's gonna work. Let's build it real quick and see if it has any problems. No suitable method for these, huh? Oh, that's the form itself. I don't know if it worked. Oh wait, did I have to? No? All right, we're just gonna go see if I can build this app real quick, and we'll have to add the UI later. I'm gonna file a bug on the dev team and have them go and fix it. Yes, it does not have an addition value, it doesn't have a customer value. We will not have those in our app today. Required app is missing. All right, let's see. Projects. So remember when I said I was worried about that little yellow icon? I was right to be worried about that. And we'll have to go investigate that. Okay, Windows Forms App 1. I'm going to rename this to Windows Form App Components, just to match that. And I'm going to change the code in here. Form App and Windows Forms App 1. Windows Forms App, Windows Forms App 1. All right. Okay, so what have we done so far? One, we recreated our Windows Forms app unexpectedly. And that is now, well, I suppose I could run it. Let's set that as the startup project and make sure that it comes up with a big empty form. There we go. Bring it over here to this window. Big empty form, no problem. That's what we would expect because I lost all my controls from that project. Okay, fine. We have our Windows Forms app and we have created a reference from our MSI project and made a reference to the Windows Form app to make sure that our build order is correct. And then we said, let's create a component group to put that Windows Forms app1.exe into our install. Now, this is a point where I would lean over to Dave and say, so is that enough? And the answer, of course, is it is not enough because we have created this component. It's in its own fragment. That means it's not being included into our product unless we actually specify that we would like it. So just like this component group here for console apps, we want to do the same thing for our Windows Form app. There we go. So console app components, Windows Forms app components. Boy, that's a mouthful. Windows Forms apps. Too many plural there. All right. Windows Forms app components. 3 plurals, 1 not. A lot of nouns. Okay, so I'm going to hit the build button. Well, we'll just go hit the build solution. And now we're going to build everything. Let's look at the output as it goes by. And we're building x86. That's good. And we now have a belt test MSI. This is great. Do we trust that? No, of course we don't trust that. Episode 22. Let's go do the work to put it in to our sandbox. And we're going to try to install this real quick. Except I forgot to update the start. So it's going to open up the wrong folder. David and I were discussing this. Remember we have, if we look at our start, I'm going to close here. Our Dojo start file. Is that listed in our build goo? It is not. I'm going to add it. Existing, add existing item. And if we look in episode 22, Dojo start, we'll see it has, oh, it opens Dojo. Okay, I did fix this. So we're going to open AppWiz, we're going to open Dojo, and we're going to open program files folder when we start our sandbox. That should work. Oh, it's the Dojo WSB I need to do. Let's add the existing item. Let's look at our sandbox file. F22, Dojo WSB. There we go. We need to map the C:\Dojo file to episode 22, which is where I brought this code down. At some point when we're not going to be continually bringing the code down to a new folder and we settle on one folder and we'll just use creating a Git branch to separate the episodes, I won't have to be doing this any longer. But I will have saved that file. So now when I bring up my sandbox, it'll open up in the episode 22 folder where we are working. Alrighty then. Here we go. Spin it up. Wait for it. Hey, Miyuki, welcome. Great to have you here. We're working our way through. You just missed me recreating the Windows Forms app that I wanted to test with. I had to create a whole new project, .NET Framework way, and we just got a build out. So bin x86 debug here, belt test package. We're gonna click this off, install it. Hopefully we see it install back here. There it is, deployment dojo belt test. And now we have console app 1 and Windows Forms app 1. If I double click on this Windows Forms app 1, it comes up now in the right window with Form 1, just like we had it before. So what have we shown? We've shown that we can install our Windows Forms app. That is not the point. We already knew we could install files. Nothing special about that, but I wanted to kind of go through it. Reminder that it's always the same thing. Picking up, creating a new component group for your stuff, hooking into your feature, and then we go from there. Cool. So we've shown that one, it can install, Windows Forms there's, console app is there, and now we need to go ahead and do the important part of this episode. Ready? Okay, so what's the important part? Nobody wants to go through and navigate to program files folder and like double click on the exes. That's not the way normal people use their application. Same as people, that use console apps don't want to navigate all the way down to a folder, double click it, or navigate and provide a full path to the exe. You want to have it, if you're going to make it a tool that people run, you want that command exe on the user's machine, like in their path, so they could just run it from a command prompt. And the way that you do that with Windows applications is you create shortcuts, and then you put them where the user then can use them. Can see them. So we're going to go ahead and add a shortcut. Shortcuts are links to files. So this is pretty easy for us to do. There's a whole lot of pieces we can give it. But the important one here is the name. So I'm going to call this Windows, we'll call it, just so we know who we're talking about, Deployment Dojo, Windows Forms App 1. All right. Big long name for a shortcut. No big deal. And then the next thing I need is probably it wants me to close it, fine. Now, I think, and I want this shortcut to point to this file. So I'm gonna try to do the easiest thing here and put the shortcut inside the file. So essentially I'm saying create this shortcut for this file, and I don't know that I need anything else. I think that's all I'm gonna need. This ID is a doc bug, if you remember from last episode. I've not upgraded to a new WiX Toolset because it's not out yet, but it will be fixed in the next WiX release. All right. Build, I think. Yes. Build. Oh, shortcut directory is not found. It is required. Yes, it is. The shortcut needs a directory, of course. So if you don't specify directory, it ends up going in the same directory as the component, but I don't want to put it there. I want to put it into a location on the user's machine. Let's see, where do I want to put it? I'm going to put it for now on the desktop folder. All right. So desktop folder is another one of those standard directories that you can get from the Windows installer. If you remember, we can go to standard directory type ID equals, and in here, there's a whole list of them. Desktop folder is hopefully pretty self-explanatory and also should be very visible every time I run this in the sandbox. So now let's go ahead and build the MSI again. Build started, wait for it. Yes. I'm going to ignore these ICEs for now. And we'll talk about these ICEs another time. These are not going to block me, I don't think. Oh, are they? These are errors? It did, it blocked me. These ICEs are a long-standing challenge between us and the Windows installer team, and I've not been able to get them to reevaluate whether they're important or not. What do I want to do? I'm going to show you a quick way out. I'm not going to explain this yet, but we're going to advertise our shortcut, which is a very fancy technique that'll avoid these errors for now until I tackle a few more things later. So, and then, if we have time at the end, I'll show you what that advertise gets us as kind of an extra thing in sparring. So we've now been able to build our MSI. When we advertise, it will pick the first file that's inside this component, and it will say, hey, I'll point at that. So that's why our shortcut is now pointing at the first file in this component. We're going to install it to the desktop folder. This is probably the shortest, smallest, easiest way to create a shortcut to a file inside your MSI. Yes, so let's go ahead and spin up our sandbox again. Now that we have rebuilt the MSI, I'm going to show the output here. Rebuilt the MSI. Sandbox comes up. Wait for it to open our folders. There we go. There we go. And I want to make sure the desktop stays visible a little bit. We'll make this smaller. All right. Belt test package. Bin x86 debug ENUS. Belt test package. Here we go. If everything works, we'll get a shortcut. Woo! We have a shortcut. Has no icon, but we'll worry about that later. Also, I want to show here, there's our Windows Forms app. And if I double click on this thing, Deployment Dojo, Windows Forms app 1. I know that's probably small for you guys. Double click on it, and our Windows Forms app comes up. Poof. All right, so at a basic, we now have the way from the desktop. In this case, we put it in the desktop, and it shows up it allows us to launch the user's application from there. Let's go ahead and put it into a more appropriate place. So I'm going to uninstall it. Go from here. We'll close the sandbox. Okay, so if you don't want to put it on the sandbox, but you want to put it in the start menu, standard directory ID equals the start menu was historically called the program menu folder. I don't know why that's why they called it that, but that is what they had. I think it's because way back when the Windows installer was designed in 1998, and back then Windows NT 4 was still around, and I think it was still called program menu folder, the thing that you could click on to make it pop up. All right, let's go ahead and build again. And now we're going to be we should be putting our shortcut instead of on the desktop, into the start menu. So let's see if I got that right. Wait for our things to come up, and we will launch our MSI again. Boom. Okay, there's our belt test. Here we go. Belt test package. Built into bin debug x86 ENUS. Belt test package. Install. Nothing on this desktop. That's good. So if we go into start, and we type deployment Dojo Windows format, there it is. It found it in our desktop. Now, I haven't used Windows 11 enough. All apps. There we go. And since I chose, Deployment Dojo? Oh, there it is, D. I was going to say Windows Form app, but there it is right there. Under D, our Deployment Dojo Windows Form app 1. Boom. Start it, click it, and poof, our Form 1 is back. Okay? So there we go. The very basics of creating a shortcut. Don't worry, I know there's no icon. I know there are a lot of things missing. We're going to touch on those. Okay. Now, normally I'd ask David at this point if there are any questions. There's a few of you in chat. You guys are welcome to drop your questions in there. We're working our way up to more and more complicated applications. I wanted to first walk us through and say, hey, we created our Windows Form app, no big deal. Created a reference to that project, added it to our projects here, create a component group, add our file, and then to use this, because it's a Windows application, we create a shortcut to point at it. We've been doing so much work with the console app and having that same thing being done over and over and over. I wanted to make sure that everybody was just aware of, reminding us kind of that, oh, look, this is just one more file, one more thing to do. Nothing special. The only new part here is adding this shortcut element. Cool? Cool. David, wherever you are. Hope this will make sense. So the next thing we do need to do is go ahead and get some of this stuff checked in, and then I want to go do something fun. All right, so our Windows Form app now is different. So let's go ahead and commit that. Does it do the deletes? Yes, I think it did do delete. All right, and then I want to also add my deletes of the Windows Form app 1. Oh, is it not going to do all of them? I do not want to add Form app 1 old. I want to update the solution. Yep. All right, so I'm going to amend the last commit and change. This is the new Windows Form app that we're adding. We add all these and remove all those. All right, cool. Commit that. All right, cool. We have our Windows application now committed to GitHub, or committed to Git locally, not to GitHub. All right, next thing, let's go ahead and take a look at the changes that we made to our project from here. One, the Dojo WSB, we changed to episode 22. All right, that's good. We're gonna let's go ahead and do that. Update to episode 22. Update sandbox to episode 22. Commit. All right, let's now look at the changes we made to all of our code. The blank line is gone, and we have a project reference to the Windows Form application. That's correct. We do want that change. In our packages, package.wxs, we have added a reference to this new component group, just like we have the console app ones. That is good. That's the thing we wanted. And then we have our Windows Form app components WXS. This is all new file here. Everything brand new. And this is the work that we did this time. So I'm going to go ahead and commit that and say this is episode 22. Taking a shortcut to using WiX 4. Is it possible for the user to choose whether or not to create the shortcut? Miyoki, it absolutely is. And I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, but it absolutely is possible. And we have only one piece of the puzzle to make that happen. So we will be adding that functionality in a future release. Each one of these, I'm trying to keep these episodes to, like just under 40 minutes. And we can only get so far. But I want to show you, get back to this. I want to commit this, get that work up there. I don't care about the app old, so we can just delete that folder now. Now I'll just leave it. I'll go figure out what went wrong later. I'm going to go ahead and push this code up to GitHub, and then hopefully GitHub will recognize, there it is, that episode has pushes. So we're going to compare the pull request, and there we go. And I'm going to do the same thing, episode 22, taking a shortcut with WiX V4. And I want to show you something while this kicks up. I'm going to create this pull request. Kicks up. And down here you can see it's expecting to do a build. So we're going to go talk about this one extra thing in sparring. I want to point out that after every single build, or after every single change that we make, and we push up here, a build will happen for us automatically in the background. And we'll take a quick peek at it. Running back here, we can see it's going to go pick up a job and run. So let's let this thing run. And I want to go back and show you the cool thing that we can do with the fact that I marked this shortcut as advertised. All right, to do that, we're going to bring up the sandbox. Now, this is an advanced feature that most people, was a real big deal back when disks were smaller. This is a cool feature of the Windows installer that I'm not sure how many people are using these days, but it has some cool stuff. So the thing I want to show you now is, all right, how do I want to do this? I need to bring up a command prompt because we're going to use the Windows installer command line. And we're going to go into our directory. Make this bigger. There we go. All right, cd belt test package, bin, x86, debug. I'm used to it completing for me in PowerShell. I'm not using PowerShell. Maybe I should have. All right. So I'm going to do MSI exec. Now, if you remember from, I don't know, a few episodes back, we would use MSI exec belt test, and then we pass like a property equals to pass command line options and those kinds of things on or pass options to command line, all that kind of good stuff. Well, today I'm going to show you this magic secret trick. MSI exec /J. And what this does is it doesn't install the files on the machine. All it installs are the things that the user can interact with to cause the application to get installed. So if I do this, all right, look, we're gonna go in here. If we go into here, it's not showing up. If we go here, our apps are not showing up. All right, the MSI is not installed on this machine, or at least it doesn't seem to be installed. But then if I go to all apps, our Deployment Dojo Windows Form App 1 is. And by marking our shortcut advertised, it allows this application, this MSI package, to be assigned or to advertise to this machine, and it only writes shortcuts and other small things. I'm getting attacked by spammers. All right, here we go. So all it does is bring our app. Now I want you to watch very closely what happens. When I click on this shortcut, the Windows installer pops up and it actually goes through the installation, brings our files, puts them in here, and launches the app for us all in one go. So this is a big deal when you would push. You can also do this through group policy. So you can have one central place inside your enterprise, and you can, through the power of AD, say, assign this application to all these people in your enterprise, and they'll all get the little shortcuts. And then only when someone clicks on it will it actually bring that application to their machine. So it saves all the disk space until they actually need that application, and then it uses it. In today's day and age, disk space is so big, a lot of people don't do this, but this was huge back in even Office 2000s when it first came out. And I can't tell you, Office was such a large application. Everybody just loved this feature. It was like, oh, this is so fantastic. So they could assign out and say, here, you can have Word and Publisher and Access and Outlook and PowerPoint and all those things. But if you never clicked on them, they never took your disk space. And now you can see that at the end, it was here. So I want to show that one more time. After I uninstall it, note that the apps are gone. I have no D on this machine, so I'm going to do it again. Advertise, I'm going to do the advertisement here. All right, and then when I go to all apps, there it is, Deployment Dojo. And I'm going to now make this a little smaller. Let's see if we can get it to show that it's going to be installed. All right, so I'm going to click it again. All applications, Deployment Dojo Windows format, MSI comes up. Our form comes up and our directory was added with our console app and our Windows Server application. And if I then go to a new command prompt, after faulting that in, it should have added to the path. So I should be able to type console app1.exe, have it run, and welcome to the console app1, register to our very valued customer. There you go. Cool little piece of history that you can get with the Windows installer. Yes, I want to uninstall. Thank you. Oh yeah, automatically close the app because I left it open. Ta-da. So there you go. A little bit of history, something you can do with advertising. It's a very cool little thing. It can surprise people when you do that. And that's what setting that advertise equals true on the end of your shortcut. And then now if we go and jump back to our build, we can see that our build is green, which is great. So I can now merge this pull request. Wait for it, think about it, go for it, yep. And now we're ready for episode 23 next week. So hopefully then Dave will be able to get back to me. If you guys have any other questions, things you want to talk about, I'm definitely adding them to the queue of things to talk about, lessons to cover in the Deployment Dojo. But this was episode 22. Next week, same time, same place, we'll be back for episode 23. Until then, you guys keep coding. You know I am. Bye.